I've been at this for over 10 years now. I did just only start with one location, and I've tried probably at least 7 or 8 different marketing companies.
You grew by like 700%.
We were only doing about a couple $1,000s a month. We got it up to between 40 and 50K. So we almost 10x'd it, essentially.
Brandon scaled from 2 gyms all the way up to 14 gyms in just 3 years. And in this video, he's gonna share with you exactly how he did it. He'll share his 3 secrets on creating a marketing and sales machine, how to develop top talent, and how to find great locations to buy gyms and studios in. Let's dive in.
To start off, Brandon, just want to really kind of dig into your journey and really what it's been like, going from a couple gyms to over a dozen gyms in less than, a couple of years, really, not even 3-4 years. So just start from the beginning.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me, Jacob. Yeah, I've been at this for over 10 years now, and I did just only start with one location, and like you said, we've gotten up to 14 total studios, 10 gyms, and then we have 4 stretching studios that we operate also. But specifically to the gyms, I would say, it's like you said, it's a learning process. It was a slow build. When we started out with one location, it took us a while to figure things out, master the process, what we were trying to do. And then, problems always amplify, and also opportunities amplify when you add 2, 3, 4 more locations. So, to start out, we operated our one Anytime Fitness for about 12 months, did a pre-sale and everything, and then another owner in the area that was actually very close to where I grew up. She put her gym up for sale at a very, very reasonable price. So we went ahead and added the second location. Now we only operated those 2 locations for, it was just those 2 for about 5 years or so. That's about 2014 to about middle of 2020. And it was a little bit of a struggle, honestly. We had Planet Fitnesses open in both markets that we were operating. One of them was a brand new Planet Fitness facility with a track and stuff they don't even normally do. So we were, we were looking for that kind of accelerated our mindset of we need to differentiate ourselves and really find something to make Anytime Fitness stand out in the market rather than just the cheap $10 memberships, right? So right around that time is actually when we connected. Well, not. We had been connecting for a little bit of time before that, but in 2020, right after COVID, I had added a 3rd location, and we were, looking for a way to differentiate and make personal training and team training our secret sauce. Really buy into the delivering results to our members instead of just a cheap membership. So they invest in something that they're actually going to get they're going to get results out of. So. When we decided to launch Gym Members Now at our 3rd location that was actually failing, it was open for a year, and they only had about 90 members and etc. So we took over operations. They had no personal training. We turned on some marketing because we needed to get some leads through the door, and things went a little crazy there, and we blew that club out of the water basically, and that kind of jump-started our growth to add, I think we added 4 clubs in 2021, acquisitions, and at all those clubs we turned on marketing to get qualified personal training leads through the door to grow not only the personal training program, but also grow the membership base, and again, offer something that's different than just a cheap membership. So then we kept scaling from there. 11 gyms now. We got 4 stretching studios, so 15 total. But just to keep grinding from there. It's been a learning process. We've run into a lot of different problems and issues, and again, even opportunities by slamming a bunch of people through the door and acquiring a bunch of different locations in different demographics. So you learn a lot as long as you learn from those mistakes and grow from them. Then you can definitely have success in scaling up. So,
Yeah, it's been really cool to see your all's growth because it's been so rapid, and you guys have just really capitalized on a lot of opportunity. But going back to having that first gym and that second gym, what do you think it was that kept you guys there from 2014 to 2019 to not being able to go and find another location? Or was it just that there weren't any available, or was there any reason in particular?
Yeah, there was opportunities. No, I would just say we didn't have. First off, we didn't have a established stream of leads coming through the door. We were kind of managing our own marketing. It kind of felt like just slinging darts at the wall and hopefully something stuck. I remember creating some of our own random video ads and stuff like that way back in the day. So I would say that's the first part is we didn't understand how to get people necessarily through the door at a consistent rate. And then the second thing was we didn't have an established personal training program and we weren't consistent on pushing the personal training sales enough. And that kind of ties into, just the leads that are coming through the door. If you don't have a steady stream of people coming through the door, can't necessarily grow your membership or your personal training program. So then the third thing would be we didn't have the people on staff. We didn't have the people on staff to really push personal training, to sell personal training, that believed in what we were doing, that believed in the sales, that believed in the marketing. So a combination of those three things. But once we were able to, really check those boxes, that's when we were able to get location 4, location 5, location 6, and scaling up. And adding new locations was a no-brainer. Even taking over failing locations that hadn't had success in the past, it wasn't as big of a risk. That from our side, we didn't see it as big of a risk to take these locations over because we knew we had these certain pillars kind of mastered, and as long as we put someone good in there that believed in what we were doing, we could send a steady stream of leads through the door to that person to convert. Then we could be well on our way to build the membership and the personal training program and take it to a standard that we upheld.
Sure. So it sounds like what you guys were really doing was you guys were holding back because you didn't really have that process to get people coming in consistently, and you wanted to hold off to mitigate any risk of going into another location. But once you were able to kind of get that down by leveraging us, you were able to just focus on finding more locations and really just ramping it up because you had that steady stream.
I would, totally agree. It's a fine line as an owner to, invest in marketing and then make sure you're getting a return on that and measuring that return. And some owners, I've tried, including myself, I've tried all kinds of different companies. I mean, I've tried probably at least 7 or 8 different marketing companies. So I could give you the runaround on all of them, but you as an owner, you want to see your money. Obviously, you want to see a return on that investment with the marketing. You want to see not only leads come in the door, but you want to see packages sold to those leads, right? So in the past, before we really got things cooking and we started working with y'all, it was, like I said, just kind of slinging a dart at the wall and hoping something stuck. And it was really hard to measure the results as well when we were doing that. So it just, feel like you're lighting money on fire to an extent, and you're struggling with the decision of, do I run marketing? Do I not run marketing this month? What offer do I do? Because this didn't work last time, but this seemed to work, right? And then you're constantly almost like in a brain lock or a jam of thoughts, and you're not sure what to do because you don't have data to support, the best option.
I'd be curious to get your kind of like take on this because I talk with tons of gym owners all the time, and they really have kind of like 2 options. Either they can run their own marketing, they can do it on their own while they're doing all these other things, operating the gym, managing a team. There's a lot of like one-man show gym owners out there, and to do all that stuff is obviously very difficult, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Like you had said, you remember when you made your first ad, you were just kind of throwing darts at the wall. I remember when I made my first ad, and it did horrible. Like you don't know what you're doing. But on top of that, you were also kind of mentioning you could work with a marketing agency, right? But you've worked with a lot of them, and even with some of those, not really able to track data, not really sure what's going on. That's a really common thing with a lot of gym owners that I speak with is they're doing something with marketing, but they truly don't know what result they're getting. They're not able to track what is actually getting produced from the marketing that they're spending money on, because it's all getting funneled to their website where people are organically going, and they just truly do not know how much they're getting or how much they're losing based off the money they're putting in. So, what would you say, I guess, was the turning point? Or what was that like for you to go from like that to not having it and then transitioning to creating that or setting that up with our help or just internally, so that you could really know that the money you were putting in was actually resulting in more money than you were spending across the board?
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge change. So I do have a business partner, and he's not as familiar necessarily with, the Facebook ads and all that type of stuff. So when I can deliver actual data of, hey, here's how many leads came in, here's how many appointments we had off those leads, these are the amount that showed, here's the exact specific people we sold a deal to, and then obviously be able to report on the total amount, contract value, or down payments that we got from those specific deals. That was a game changer and a huge eye opener for our ownership group for sure. And in the past, most of the companies I worked with, they provided some data, but it didn't directly lead to the conversion statistics and how many packages you actually sold. It was also difficult to track, hey, how many appointments did we get off these leads? I mean, getting leads is great, but if nobody books an appointment or you don't get any of those people through the door, then it doesn't matter as much, right? So, and also just going back to your original point in the question, as gym owners, we're wearing a lot of hats, right? And it takes a lot to run one location, let alone 10, 12, 25, 50, 100, however many you got. But if you want your full-time job to be marketing, then I would say run your own ads. But again, it's a full-time job to monitor what's going on with Meta, what's going on with Instagram, how your ads, I mean, all this stuff. This is your job. This is why I have you guys do this stuff for me. So the way I look at it is we need to focus on sales. We need to focus on delivering results. We need to focus on customer service, on external marketing, community outreach. Those are the things we need to focus on. So for me, it makes total sense to have a partner in gym members now like you guys to just take care of all of that stuff, deliver me the data, and we can make educated decisions on the data if we need to change anything.
Got it. Yeah, that makes total sense. Because like I said, a lot of these owners that I speak with just do not know. And it's a scary situation to be in. And I think you're kind of mentioning it when you got into it, where you were thinking, am I wasting money? Is this working? Not really knowing, and just kind of being really all over the place, not really sure what direction to go in. So what would you say, working with us was the big differentiator between how we did things and how other companies you had worked with had done things?
Well, besides all the data you guys provide, I would say the coaching and consulting was a big value add for myself and my team. So, working with you guys on sales, developing some of our sales process off of the coaching your team provided was very big for us, along with, the data and actually being able to track appointments, leads, sold appointments, shows, all that type of stuff. We were able to kind of take, like I said, some things y'all provided off your consulting, and we put it into our sales process and taught it to our team. So that's what I would say was another big differentiator, is the coaching and consulting arm of things, because no other marketing company I've worked with has provided that.
Got it. So really just connecting the dots from not only the marketing, but then once the marketing comes through the door, how to really just convert it and monetize it to the highest degree.
Exactly. I mean, we had somewhat of a sales process, when I got my third location and we brought you guys on to be our marketing partner. We had somewhat of a sales process, but we were willing to learn and say, hey, we don't know everything. Let's dive into this process that these guys are providing to us, and let's make sure we master it. We know it inside and out. And me and my team did that. And again, we made some tweaks. We added some different things, took some things out, small minor adjustments based on our market. But if you really dive into the process and you're willing to learn and you're willing to take some coaching, you can really maximize the return on your marketing.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, what would you say was the main thing that really propelled you from, in 4 to 5 years having 2 gyms, and then in less than 4 years having 15? If you do the math on that, you grew by like 700%. right? Which is like crazy in the same amount of time. So, I mean, what would you say? And just like for other gym owners, you've gone through these different phases of having a gym, getting another gym, maybe thinking to yourself, okay, I don't know if I should get another gym because there's some more stuff I need to figure out. I don't want to end up in maybe the situation I'm in now where I acquired another and I don't have it like fully figured out where I would want to go buy another and then to get another and feel like it kind of starts clicking to the point where you buy, I think 4 in that first year, right? In 2021, where you just grew like crazy and then kept doing it. So, I mean, what would you say was the main, like the main thing of that? And it doesn't have to be marketing, anything, but just like for you and the mindset, that whole entire like experience from, again, being new to it and then doing it for half a decade and then the second half decade doing, 700% growth.
Yeah, great question. I would say it's honestly processes and systems. So having processes and systems that are specific to your business and what you have going on. There's always going to be some general things for the fitness business. But yeah, processes and systems, specifically, having a consistent sales process that you can teach to your team members and is easy to learn. Having a consistent recruiting pipeline. When you take over a gym, you might not retain the entire staff. And then when you bring in somebody new, they might not realize, especially when I took over some failing locations, some of the people didn't really realize, what they were getting into and the amount of work that it was going to take to make the club profitable and uphold the standard, uphold our company's standard and the Anytime Fitness standard. So that was definitely a hard lesson to learn, the processes and systems. And I mean, I still develop some of those things to this day when I'm working on the business. Hey, how can we be more efficient in our recruiting? How can we be more efficient in our onboarding process with managers or trainers? Having a employee performance review process was a big learning. Telling your staff, hey, here's how you're performing right now. Here's what we expect. Let's bridge that gap. Or maybe they are performing at the standard. That's just a simple thing that a lot of people or a lot of owners, I think, just overlook, right? So yeah, definitely the processes and systems when you have 15 locations and 100 plus people working for you, can't just be flying by the seat of your pants every day,
Sure.
It's not gonna work. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, let's talk about, because a lot of gym owners have a really hard time with the staffing piece, especially people that are just getting started, being able to kind of bridge that gap between where they start making some money, they're doing it all on their own, their expenses are low, and then looking at bringing on another trainer, looking at bringing on a manager, to kind of remove some of that responsibility so they can then focus on something else, or maybe they take a step back and then let their business fall backwards and now they're paying someone else. I see and hear that a lot. So what would you say are like the keys to making those transitions from going from like phase 1 to bringing on your first team member, phase 2, like building a team that runs itself where the gym is functioning alone without you for the most part, and then being able to kind of scale that up all the way, just like the whole staffing process. I'd love to hear like biggest mistakes you've made, biggest solutions you've found, and what you would say to people that are, getting started, and someone that's like got a really solid location is thinking, I want to buy these 4 failing gyms. I think I know everything. I think I could turn these gyms around. What would you say to that person getting started and that person that, was like you maybe 4 or 5 years ago?
Yes, there's a lot here. The first thing I would say is, to owners that even have one location, if you're working in the business, that means you're sacrificing a lot of time working on the business. And there's always work to be done on the business. And if you lose yourself grinding in the business, and no one's working on the business, then you're never going to be able to take things where you want, unless you want to work, like 24 hours a day and have no life, which I don't think most entrepreneurs get into owning their own business to do that. So that's the first thing is you need to make sure you're working on the business. And part of that is recruiting. So setting the biggest, actually, to answer your question first, biggest mistake I've made is definitely I have a motto that's always be recruiting. So my biggest mistake would be times that I wasn't always recruiting, or waiting for somebody to leave or quit or exit and not having somebody ready to go. Putting a job posting up when somebody quits is never the route you want, or never the situation you want to be in, and never the route you want to go. You always want to be actively recruiting. You always want to be interviewing people. You always want to have a number two behind a manager, or a assistant head trainer behind a head trainer, or always be interviewing trainers to come on board. One of the things I've come to believe is, most people are in the job market when it's opportunistic for them, right? So that might not always be when it's opportunistic for us. And if we don't have that net out there all the time of, hey, we're always looking for good people, then we could miss good people if we don't have job postings up, right? They're going to apply to the positions that are open if they're seeking and looking. And if we don't have something open, we're not going to get an application from them, right? And most people just don't walk through our doors. Actually, I would say that's happened maybe one or two times. Someone's walked through our doors and say, "Hey, I want a job," and they're a great candidate, right? That very rarely happens. So always be recruiting, always be interviewing, even for positions you have filled. Again, in today's labor market, we can't afford to miss on quality candidates. So that's the first thing I would say. And then a couple tips on recruiting is there's plenty of websites you can use. Indeed is very cheap. I use Career Plug, a little shameless plug there for Career Plug, but they do very well. All my applicants go right to, a dashboard database. I can evaluate everyone right from there. I can ask them pre-screening questions, very easy, right? So again, develop a process, develop an interview question process that you want to implement, and then always be recruiting. So that's one easy method. The second method, if you don't want to spend money and you don't want to put job postings up, recruit from within your gym. Recruit from within your community. Ask your members, hey, do you know anybody that is studying to be a certified personal trainer? Or do you know anybody in the health and fitness industry that's working at another gym? People do know other people. And if they like you and they like working out at your gym, it's a very easy way to recruit some quality candidates. You might even find a member that has a certified, or it has a personal training certification, or might be looking for a job or has run a gym before. It's definitely happened. More on the trainer side of things, we've gotten quite a few of our trainers, just they were members at the gym and they got interested in being a personal trainer. So that's a very easy way. That's free. Just hang out. You can always hang out flyers too in your gym. Hey, we're hiring. Hey, we're looking for trainers. Talk to members. People will point you in the right direction. Two other strategies I have. One would be scout your competition. Go work out at a gym in your area that's close to you that you're competing with. See if there's any good people that are working there. If there's any good trainers, yeah, hey, throw them a business card. Hey, you looking for more work? Hey, I can pay you more. I'm not telling you to go steal other people's employees, but if there's good people out there and you want to grow your gym, you might have to get, a little aggressive on bringing the right people on board. And we've used this also recently is we'll post, me and my staff will post on like a community Facebook page for the city we're in. And we'll just say, hey, new to the area, looking for a trainer. Who's the best trainer in town? And then we immediately know, we get a few comments of, hey, here's the best trainers in town. Those are people you might want to take a look at or contact. I'm sure they have a following of clients that if you did decide to bring them from their gym to your gym, they probably have a book of business they're going to be bringing along with them if they're that good. And then what was my last tactic there? Oh no, that was the last tactic. Yeah, use the Facebook post. So there's some free ones, there's some paid ones. I use a combination of all those things. To always bring good people on board. You can never have enough good people on the team. Always got to be looking for good people. You can't stop recruiting. The second you stop and you think, hey, this person's not going anywhere. Life happens, things happen, they quit, they move, situations, think life can get crazy. So we always want to be prepared and make sure we have a steady stream of candidates coming through the pipeline. So, and that's something we've been burned on quite a few times. When I first got to location 3, 4, 5, it was like, all right, we got a person in place. Let's focus on sales. Let's focus on the leads. Let's focus on getting the revenue numbers up and the attrition down. And then, bam, you lose somebody and it's back to square one. So,
Yeah. Well, those are really
all the questions. Sorry, that was
yeah. That really did hit all of them. I want to go into a little bit more detail on a couple of them, but I thought one thing that was really interesting that you guys do that I don't ever hear anyone talk about is you find out who the best is in town. You look at other gyms and you see what other opportunities there are, and you explore them. And like you said, you might have to get a little bit aggressive with it, but the reality is this is business. And if you want to get great people, you're going to have to find them. And one of the biggest issues most gym owners face is finding a good trainer or finding a good manager, just finding good people to put in those roles. And if you can't find them, chances are there's probably a competitor that does have them. And if you could build a relationship with them or incentivize them, you might be able to get them on your team. This is business. It's a competition. It's a battle at the end of the day, especially when you're in a local market, right? So you guys are fighting. You're at war, and that's an opportunity. So I always thought that was interesting how you guys had done that and leveraged that, and it's clear that it's helped you all a lot. What would you say is one of the biggest red flags when it comes to hiring people? Because obviously you said you've gotten burned. You've had to learn a couple times, right? Is there anything you would say when it comes to hiring people to really look out for as a red flag and then things to look for as a green flag?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good question. And I have a couple really good points for you here. So, the first one is really, really basic. The first question we ask people on the interview is, do you have reliable transportation to work? So you'd be surprised at how many people don't have a car. They don't have, I don't know, they're living with their mom. It doesn't matter. It seems crazy, but that is literally the first question we ask all the time is, do you have reliable transportation to work? And obviously, if the answer is no there, we are not even really moving on the interview. So that would be a huge red flag. But also another one, this one's a little more serious, is really people's financial position. We asked people in our interview, like how things are going for them financially and what situation they're in. It's an interview, so people are trying to sell themselves, but for the most part, people will be honest with you and tell you straight up what's going on. And if someone's in a bad financial position, it's a very large red flag. It usually means they're desperate. Things haven't worked out for them in the past. They're looking for a quick way to make money up, and usually that's not necessarily what we provide. As a gym management salary and commission structure. So that would definitely be the biggest red flag. Anybody with any financial problems, or if they bring up, yeah, I'm living at home with my mom and it's a 40-year-old or something like that. Yeah, the financial position probably is contributing to that, and that's a huge red flag. And that's totally okay to ask. I haven't really had anybody push back on that question. And if people do not feel comfortable answering it, they'll just tell you and say, hey, I don't feel comfortable answering, what's going on in my financial side of things. But that's what I would say is a huge, huge red flag. Even if you bring someone on the team and they're asking for advances on money, or, hey, I'm short on this, hey, I'm short on that, that is also a very big red flag. So those would be the two I'd give you. Can you show up to work? And what's the financial position? Actually, one last one too, and this sounds very basic, is I always outline the work schedule. and the hours that we require, because we do work a little bit of a different shift than some gyms. We do like a split shift where they have a big break in the middle of the day. So communicating that to them and, hey, are you okay with these hours? Will these hours work for you? That's usually along with financial, and do you have a reliable transportation? Those would be the three we're looking for on red flag, green flag, I would say. But other green flags, I know you asked about that. Um, I would say that kind of depends on the culture that you want your company um, to give off. We like to ask candidates a couple specific questions like, hey, what motivates you? Is it money? Is it time off? Is it travel? I don't know. Let them answer, right? And most people will say money, but you'll be surprised that actually most people aren't motivated by money. They're motivated by something else. As long as they're able to articulate that to us and clearly define what motivates us, or excuse me, what motivates them, I say that's a pretty good green flag. Also, we ask some behavioral questions, situational customer service questions about their drive, their determination, what they would do in certain situations, basically. And we're looking for somebody who's motivated, who wants to be a self starter, who wants to be a little bit of an entrepreneur, almost like we want our managers at our clubs and our studios to be almost like the owner a little bit. They're the mayor of the club. They create some programs. They're the ones interacting with our members and who's paying our bit or who's they're interacting with the people of our business the most. So we want them to kind of be the front people of of the business and uphold the culture. So.
Yeah, that's really good. What would you say for someone that is looking to make their first hire? Like, what absolutely not to do, or any of those, maybe a mistake you could think of where, you thought it was good going into it, and maybe there were a bunch of these red flags that you didn't realize were red at the time. But what would you say, for someone that's really looking to, let's say they've got it going decently well on their own or with like a couple team members, and they're really wanting to get another location, or they're really wanting to expand, or they're really wanting to try to step out of it and work more on it rather than in it, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I would say first thing, two-step interview process. So let's make sure we have two interviews, maybe one Zoom or one phone, just to get that initial contact made. And then a second one in person at the gym or at the studio so that you can really gauge what's their body language like, what is their vibes, what am I feeling from them, how are they answering questions and actually articulating in person, and are they just a generally good person, right? You can have a conversation with them and figure out, especially once you do two interviews. Don't forget when, as an owner and as someone conducting the interviews, you're on the other side of the table. They're trying to sell us the best version of themselves, right? So it's our job to kind of weed through that a little bit and make sure we peel back the layers to not only find out the good stuff, but we need to find out a little bit of the bad things too, so that we make an educated decision. So for someone making their first couple hires, that's immediately what I would say. Put a two-step interview process in place. One on the phone or on Zoom, real quick, and that can go. That interview can be like the basic stuff I kind of just gave you with the basic questions. Hey, do you have reliable transportation to work? How far away are you? What's your familiarity with gyms? Can you work this schedule? This is what I'm looking for. Maybe roughly outline the pay too, because the hours, the pay, and the location are three things that if they're not right, the person won't even consider taking the position, right? So before we bring them in for a second round in-person interview, we like to get all that stuff out of the way first. So that's what I would say. If I was giving someone advice, do the two-step. Even if it's just you and you're doing the interview twice, it's totally okay for them to meet with you two times. In my company, I have quite a few people working for me. So I have a two-step interview process with two different people. But again, you can run both of them yourself. And again, that's just a way to kind of sort through the salesy approach. The the interview prospect, potential employee candidate is selling us the best version of themselves. So it's our job to ask the questions to find out everything we need to know.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Also curious, what about people that, and I know this has happened with you, people that are buying a location, they're not doing a new build, but they're purchasing an existing location. What would you say to those people that are retaining staff that they know they should get rid of? That they know are not up to par? You know, because we work with a lot of gyms and studios and have in the past where this has been the Achilles heel. Because when it comes to helping a gym grow in any business, all it comes down to is the people, right? The people, the strategy, and the execution of that strategy. And if you don't have the right people who are unwilling to learn, have a growth mindset, are coachable, are looking to adapt and evolve and really take it to the next level and optimize things, it's very difficult. But there's a lot of people I know that do not have the process you have that gives them the confidence to say, bye, you're fired, you know, you're not a fit. They retain people due to the fact that they don't have options.
Yeah, and I think speaking from my point of view, pretty much all the locations I acquired were not profitable, or you want to call them failing. Let's call them failing. And our mindset now, and it wasn't always in the past, is like you said, let's just get rid of all the staff and just move on and put our people in place and start fresh. Um, I'm sure there are some owners out there that take over successful operations. And I guess, if you are able to vet the person that has been running that club and they're hitting KPIs that you want and you deem successful and you observe their work, sure, keep them in place. I'm not telling you to fire every single person. But for the most part, again, I've taken over failing locations where, why is the gym failing? Well, the person in there, it obviously has a hand in that. So, and there's just different standards and different key performance indicators that certain companies want. I'll be the first to admit it. We do require a lot from our managers. Sometimes when I speak to other owners, they say, wow, you have your managers selling memberships, selling personal training, managing the trainers, doing community outreach, making the phone calls. Yeah, they're supposed to do all those things. They're wearing multiple hats in the facility, and we pay them well to handle all of those things. So, if you have somebody from a club you're acquiring, they might not be used to what you're expecting or what standards you want to uphold. And if you don't have a very clear conversation of, hey, things are going to be totally different. We need to turn this gym around, which means we need to crank this baby up. We need to crank up sales. We need to crank up retention. We need to crank up club culture. All those things. We need to crank up cleanliness. And they're not on board with that. Then you're just even behind the eight ball even more. And you're kind of setting your timeline back even further the longer you keep them on board. I would say this gets down to trainers too. We have a pretty high standard for our training program, and when people are out there on the floor just winging it, looking at their phone, not following a periodized program, then again, it's just easier to bring in somebody that's going to actually do the job we want, or try and teach an old dog new tricks, right?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, obviously. Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot where obviously there's some big companies within the Anytime Fitness space that have gobbled up a lot of gyms. My business partner being one of them, and they assume a lot of locations. And I think that's a common thing that happens a lot, where you've just got to have very clear expectations, and if they're not on board with it, then you have to find another option. Right.
Yeah, and I mean, you can give people the opportunity of, hey, let's have a clear conversation of, what we expect, and here's the hours we expect, and here's what the performance we expect from you. And if they say, hey, I'm all on for this, I want to do it. Okay, sure, let's give them a chance. Let's try it out. Also, before you do that, you might want to even interview them, meet with them, even consider them basically as a new candidate, because it's kind of almost what they are. to see how you feel about them. And if you do like them, if you do think they can do the job, then perfect. Let's have that conversation of here's what we expect, here's what we require. And if you're willing to meet us here, then let's give it a shot and see how things go. And if you're not, no hard feelings. We'd love to keep you on board, but unfortunately, you know, it's just not going to be a fit for both sides, which is totally okay.
Yeah. Yeah, well that's perfect. So a lot of good red flags to look out for, obviously, if they cannot get there, if they're desperate, those types of red flags, just don't do it is what you're saying. You've done it. Take it from you. Don't make the same mistake. It's not going to end up being a long-term person that's on the team to really help you get where you're trying to get. One thing I want to transition to is just finding a perfect location. So obviously, when it comes to finding a perfect location, a gym or a studio, you really wanted to check a bunch of different boxes, but you've done it a lot of times. I'm sure you've learned a lot from trial and error.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you've done it really, really well a couple times, and obviously sometimes where you maybe would have said, could have done it different in a couple different ways. But what would you say to somebody that is looking to buy a new gym? Maybe they're in a small town and there's a couple gyms and there's one that is up for sale and they're kind of looking at it. What would you say to that person that could potentially go into acquiring gyms? What to do, what to look out for, what not to do? What would you say to that? Because I know you flipped a lot of gyms around super fast, gyms that were basically worthless. You were able to buy them for basically nothing and then turn them into profitable businesses.
Yeah, a lot of things to look for, but I'll run through a quick list here. So the first thing, obviously, rent is always our biggest fixed expense. So looking at the price per square footage or what you're going to end up paying total in rent with CAM, that would be the most important thing. So once you settle on that and you're okay with the rent terms and the price per square foot and all that stuff. This might be a little different than most people would say, but one of the things I think helps is actually putting gyms by your competition. If you have a competitor close by, there's other people driving to the gym right there, so they're more likely to come to your gym as well because they're driving to a gym that's right down the street. So we have competitors nearby, pretty much at all my facilities. Unless you can find a gym that is kind of out in the middle of nowhere and there's no competition around for miles and miles, yes, do that. But it's totally okay to be near large competitors, especially the Planet Fitnesses, the Esportas, there's all kinds of gyms out there. I'm not going to go through the list, but you guys know the big box gyms, totally okay to be near them. You obviously want to be in a high traffic area that's accessible. So I've even seen where some gyms or studios of mine that have been in a high traffic area, but it's kind of hard to get into the facility or get into the parking lot. I've seen those actually struggle a little bit. So making sure things are very accessible, right off of Main Street, right on a corner where everyone can see it, in a high traffic area. Definitely really important. Let's be honest, gym memberships technically are I want to say a luxury item, but it's not something everyone has. So I always like to look higher household income areas where people have money to spend on fitness, to spend on a gym membership, where they have some disposable income, to spend. Now, that's not saying you can't make it work in lower income areas. I'm definitely not saying that, but my company, we rely on personal training and having most of our members purchase personal training rather than just being a membership-based studio. So we rely on those extra services to really make sure we're hitting our targets. So high traffic area, accessible, good median household income or average household income. Definitely what we're looking for. And actually, the older population has less gym memberships, and as we get younger, actually, The 20s, 30s population, we are more invested in our health, and we actually hold a larger portion of our age groups actually have a membership. So right now, obviously, we're not going to want to look for the younger demographic areas, but as we get into like 2030 in 5 years from now, the millennials and the Gen Zers and those people, they're gonna be pushing the gyms and the memberships. So we'll definitely want to make sure we're not in areas of 60, 70 plus, all that type of thing. That's just our personal opinion. Again, some gyms make a killing off of working with the older population and the elderly population. So if that's your niche, look there. But for us, we want to kind of grow our membership base and continue growing our personal training. And we think the millennial generation, Gen Z, all those younger kids coming up that are around 20, 30, mid older 30s, that's really a big target for us to grow our business. So again, find your niche and really make sure you're targeting that niche. And yeah, those kind of tips I'd give you there. So.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm curious, what was the fastest turnaround that you guys ever had where, you bought a gym that was just doing awful, and then within a matter of 6, 12 months, it was doing just significantly better than before? And what do you think? I'd be curious on what those numbers look like and what that example is, and then what you would say you would have done differently or you could have done better, or any mistakes even with that, even with having that success.
Yeah, good question. So the biggest turnaround was definitely our Newberry location. So that was the one, that was our first acquisition after COVID, and then that was the first club we had. We were working with y'all on to get things going. So basically, I'll kind of put this at like a 90-day time frame, and then we can look at kind of 6 months. But we took over the club, and there was only about 80 to 90 members total, and there was no personal training. So zero personal training. There's like 80 to 90 members. I want to say like the total revenue of the club was like only a couple $1,000s per month with just the memberships there. So we flicked on the marketing, and then after 90 days, we had tripled the membership. We went from 80 members to about 250, 300, zero PT to about 12 to 15,000. And then from there, after about 6 months, we were able to consistently put up $40,000 in total revenue per month. So we almost 10x'd it, essentially, 8 to 10x. It went from, a couple $1,000s a month with just those 80 members and no PT. But we were doing consistently $40,000 in total revenue after 6 months. And then pushing out another 6 months, we even got it up to 50 for several months. We've touched as high as I think like 55 at that club. So yeah, that's what I would say. That was the biggest turnaround for sure. We were only doing about a couple $1,000s a month. We got it up to between 40 and 50K.
And how much did you purchase that gym for?
We made our money back within the first 6 months. So
awesome.
Let's say this: it cost way less than opening a new location.
Sure.
The investment.
Definitely. So, all right. Well, last thing I could think of is, if there's somebody that's looking to start their own gym or start their own studio, start doing this type of business model, I guess, what would you say are the biggest things to really just look for? Kind of going back to maybe some of the stuff you said, but really just, you having done this now multiple times, over a dozen times, what would you say to somebody that is looking to do it the first time or looking to do it the 12th time to just really make sure they get right?
I would say just make sure you have your processes and systems down, and that your team, whether it's just you or you have 50 people or 100 or however many, that they believe in what you're doing and they're willing to give the effort to make this new location or make this new acquisition or turn if you're buying a failing gym or something like that. just really make sure they're bought in to the vision you're putting out there, and they're ready to grind with you to accomplish those goals. The processes and systems are so important to make sure that you can. The more things you have automated, the more time you can spend working on the business. So that's what I would tell, an owner that's literally looking to make an acquisition, first one, 12th one, whatever. And then, yeah, like I said, make sure the staff is bought in. You don't want to be, necessarily pushing everyone from behind and trying to drag them up the mountain. You want to be leading them from the front and telling them, here we go, this is what we're doing. And everyone's kind of contributing behind you. So that's what I would say. Trust your judgment, trust your gut instincts. Normally when things don't feel right, they aren't right. And if you're talking to an owner who's making tons of excuses and essentially trying to sell you on acquiring or sell you on buying the gym, that's always something I look out for. Hey, what are your actual motivations behind selling this thing? Let's open up the books and really see what's going on here. Don't take people at their face value word. Always do your extra digging and your extra research. So combination of those three things: systems and processes, staff, and then really dig in on that other owner and what's going on with that business and see, all the dirty laundry you can find. Not saying there will be dirty laundry, but if you find some, it's always good to know what skeletons are in the closet that you're going to be dealing with. Because once you own a business and you take it over, all those skeletons are now yours.
Awesome. Yeah, super good, Mel.
Or the good things, or maybe it's not skeletons and it's all sunshine and rainbows and profits. I mean, that's not, the gyms we target to acquire, but I'm sure your business partner, Mr. Andy, has acquired some profitable gyms too, and he's seen the opposite side of things. So,
sure. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it, man. Yeah, dude, talking about that, there's always so many people that buy gyms and then they're like, oh, it's failing. I thought it was profitable, but it's actually not. And it's like, how could that even... How does that happen?
Yeah, that was a good one to add in there then. Yeah, I mean, these people want to get out of their business, right? Their sales.
Yeah,
Their gym sales, right? So they're going to sell you on, hey, here's why you should buy it, and not tell you all the bad stuff.
Yeah, crazy, man. Well, appreciate you doing that. Thank you for taking some time, man, to talk. I'm looking forward to hopping back on next week, going over some stuff, and getting this thing moving.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, have a good one.
All right, later, man.
And there you have it. After this video, you should have a better idea of how to create a marketing and sales machine, how to look for your next top talent, and how to expand and open your first location. If you found this interview with Brandon helpful, make sure to subscribe for more content like this. If you want to learn 11 ways you can use AI at your gym, click here and we'll talk soon.